Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to just give a thumbs up to make sure you can hear me. We're good. Okay, so good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to see so many of you that have logged in. Before we begin, I just wanted to, this is our first communal meeting since the passing of our beloved student, Aaron Harmonious Benveniste. And we wanted to wish our our condolences to Aaron and to his family and to our school and to his classmates on his loss. We as a school are going to do whatever we can to continue learning in his memory and continuing remembering his beautiful smile, his beautiful voice, and how much life he has brought to our school. And so to his family, we wish Hamakom Yinachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar V'Yitzilem B'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted amongst the mourners of Zion, and we hope that you have no more suffering and have a nechama. I wanted to give a thank you to all of the administrators who have worked really hard on tonight's presentation, as well as the many task force, the medical committee, the spacing committee, the PPE committee, in particular the communications committee, which is Hillary Holland and Nicole Kavana, and our staff. We have Susie Stern, Amy Esquinos, who is chairing the committee, and as well as Jackie Smith for all your hard work on presenting this. All of the slides that we're going to be presenting this evening will be available to you tomorrow with a dedicated link on our site to everything that we state tonight. A special thank you to the principals who have worked very hard with Rabbi Basowich on organizing the scheduling for the rest of the year. And a special thank you to our business office who has been working day and night, and our maintenance team also working. And now last but not least, a welcome to Dr. Eliezer Jones, our new high school principal, no longer incoming, he's here, who moved here with his wife Corey and his family from Chicago. So we welcome you to our community, and we look forward to having you in our school and the students and our staff to get to meet you. The Maharal in Netiv Ha'olam brings a very interesting piece of information. He quotes from the Ein Yaakov, and he quotes many different sources that say a bunch of rabbis got together and they wanted to determine what is the most important pasuk in the entire Torah. So you can imagine scrolling through the entire Torah and say, what is the most pasuk? What is the most important verse that we have in the entire Torah? So Ben Zoma quotes Rabbi Akiva, Ben Nanas quotes Rabbi Akiva, and he says the most important pasuk, the most important verse in the whole Torah is V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You shall love your neighbor. You shall love your neighbor like you love yourself. Brotherly love. Ben Zoma says, no, the most important pasuk in the whole Torah is Shema Yisrael, where we declare that Hashem, that God is our God and that God is one, the unity of God in the world. And then Shimon ben Pazi says, no, I have something different. I know V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is important. I know Shema Yisrael is important. But Shimon ben Pazi quotes a pasuk from our parsha. And he says, Es hakeves echad ta'aseh ba'boker, v'es hakeves hasheni ta'aseh ben ha'arbayim. When you're dealing with the sacrifices, you have to make sure to bring a lamb in the morning and a lamb in the afternoon. And if we would gather all of our students together, we would say, choose which pasuk do you think is the most important? Rabbi Akiva, Shema Yisrael, or a morning offering or an afternoon offering? And then Maharal says that a rabbi got up in the Beit Midrash at the moment. He says, no, Shimon ben Pazi, Rabbi Shimon's pasuk, his verse of the lamb, that's the most important. And I think what Shimon ben Pazi was talking about is consistency. Judaism is filled with beautiful moments. Judaism is filled with moments of ecstasy, of spiritual growth, the shofar on Yom Kippur as we're ending, or a beautiful kumsitz, or a Havdalah ceremony, or a Shabbat assembly. And Judaism is filled with all of those. However, Judaism is about a consistent relationship that we have with our Creator. And although Judaism can go up and down with our spiritual connections, the consistency is the most important. A lamb in the morning, shacharit in the morning, mincha in the afternoon A consistent relationship is most important. And as we are going to speaking about reopening our physical campus and the roadmap back to our school, consistency is the most important, which is why in the state of Florida, as you've heard, no matter what is happening, although the numbers are spiking, the state of Florida is saying back to school, because we know that students need to be back on campus, that the learning takes place more in school than it does virtually. And it is our goal, and it is what we are hoping to accomplish and what we are working for, to have that consistency of every morning, a routine of students waking up and coming to school. And we can fulfill the pasuk of Shimon ben Pazi as a keves echad ta'aseh b'boker, ve'et keves hasheni ta'aseh ben harbayim. The consistency is important. Tonight, we're going to speak about our plans to reopen. We're going to focus on 3 different areas. Safety is the majority of this, a piece on financial, and then a last piece on, last but not least, on education. I'm going to share my screen with you. It's some slides. Here we go. So we always go back to our mission statement. Through the light of Torah and academic excellence, the Hebrew Academy inspires each and every child to improve the world. And with that, as we spoke about in our annual meeting, there are going to be 2 options for the start of the school year. Option A is to a return to campus, and option B is for those who are unhealthy or are compromised and need to stay home. There will be an option to learn in the classroom at home with the students who are physically in campus. We will speak about later on if the need happens that we need to go back to 100% virtual. But for right now, our option A is returning to campus physically. And with that, we are taking as many safety precautions as possible, and I'll explain what those are as we move forward. The value proposition is a Hebrew Academy treats every student as an important member of a family. It is back to our mission statement of everything that we believe in. Everything, the rigorous education, the standards, and the warm environment is the value proposition of why we each have chosen Hebrew Academy as a place for our students. And although things are changing consistently, we are planning to reopen. We are planning to reopen our physical campus. Everything here is going to be subject to change as there's a fluid situation and protocols are consistently changing. And with that, our medical committee who we meet with are constantly updating us, and as well as a special thank you to Nurse Lynn, who has taken an extremely extra role in making sure that every aspect of every medical opinion there is out there, she notifies us and we bring it back to our medical committee. As we explained in the annual meeting, we're focusing on the health and safety and well-being, the education, the partnership and communication and the operation and logistics, and all of that is working with our planning committee. So let's get into as much as we can and try not to drag on too long this evening. This is the task force that we spoke about. The school is going to have 5 entrance zones, 4 on the west campus and 1 on the east campus, which is the high school. There is the middle school entrance. There is the grades 2 through 5 in the kindergarten, first grade entrance, and the early childhood entrance. These 3 gates are going to be open with security in front when students arrive. Once a child enters into campus, there will be a path which will lead them to their particular zone in the school. The reason why we're having zones is that if there is a child or a staff member who comes down with this virus, we are able to separate the zones, which means that a child and staff will not cross over between zones in the school. So when early childhood enters, they go directly into early childhood. The middle school will no longer be walking through this door. Within each of the zones, there are then cohorts. And using our security cameras, if there is someone who, God forbid, contracts this virus, we will be able to trace that person back from the moment they walked onto campus and be able to determine if they can possibly have infected other people. The reason why the zones are extremely important is to separate everyone out. to create these masterful zones. So when Hebrew Academy was built, they had Ruach HaKodesh, they had prophecy that there's 4 different wings on campus, and until you enter into these wings, you are completely outdoors. So the early childhood walks into their zone, and they will have their zone along with their outdoor. The kindergarten and first grade will walk through the main gate and will walk around the welcome center as if they're walking towards early childhood on a painted path to their zone. The kindergarten and first grade, as well as the infant room, will be the ground floor in the corridor behind the welcome center. Grades 2 through 5 will walk the other way around the welcome center and up the stairs to their zone, which is grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the middle school will start off their day in the Beth El auditorium and cafeteria, and then they will enter into their zone, which is the middle school corridor. The high school, right for now, has 1 zone, and we're working to break up the high school zones as much as possible. Up until now, we graciously welcomed the visitors and parents onto campus. Next year, the only people that are allowed onto campus are employees and students, with a caveat of if you have a child enrolled in the baby room, you will be allowed onto campus to bring your infant into that room. When every single person walks onto campus, there are safety precautions that are taken into place. Besides for the temperature checks, we are going to be looking for symptoms. We encourage parents, please do not send your child or children to school if they are sick. No Tylenol or Benadryl as you pull up to school to reduce a fever or a runny nose. Please, if your child is not feeling well, keep the child home. This will allow us to maintain an understanding of every child who walks through the door, every parent deem that child fit to enter school healthy for the day. If a child is sick, which means that if there is a child who is sick in school, they are going to be placed in a safe zone on campus. Nurse Lynn's office is being moved from the early childhood zone into the Welcome Center, and will have her own air conditioning unit, so nothing is shared throughout the rest of the Welcome Center. And right outside Nurse Lynn's office, there will be a safe zone. If a child is sick or needs to go home, the child will wait there as not to come in contact with anyone else on campus. We do recommend that before you come to campus, before August 24th, if you have traveled in a place or to quarantine, it is not mandated, but we are asking that everyone take the health precautions that they need. The sanitization on campus will happen daily, consistently throughout the day, wiping down the doors, the handles, the light switches. The drinking fountains on campus will be eliminated, and we plan on replacing them with water fountains, which you can fill up your cup. There'll be staggered bathrooms usage. Each of the zones will have their own designated bathrooms, particular for that zone only. There will be signage reminding about social distancing and protocol for sanitization throughout campus. Masks and hygiene and requirements and training. The medical staff has informed us numerous times, and Nurse Lynn, hopefully you'll nod your head here, that the most important thing we can do to mitigate the spread of this virus is mask. More than social distance, more than any other hygiene, it is wearing a mask. And it is for that reason that we are requiring everyone on campus to wear a mask the entire time they're here, except for, I will explain. Right now, under 2 in their early childhood, we're not requiring. It is a fluid situation with regards to nursery 3 and pre-K if they are required to wear masks. But starting in kindergarten up until 12th grade, every student and every staff member will need to wear a mask on campus. When there will be designated times, however, throughout the day, that children and staff will have the ability to take off their masks. We have upgraded the PE schedule, the athletics in the school, so it is hopefully taking place every single day from kindergarten through 8th grade. During that time, we are going to spread students outside with an extreme social distance. So they'll have the ability to take off their masks and to breathe outside, to have fresh air, to run around, as well as we'll have a designated place, a location on campus in which staff can go and take off their masks, sit back, and get their relaxation that they need. We will be having social distancing inside of the classrooms. It is up to the medical committee to decide exactly the social distance between desks. It could be anywhere from 6 feet and down to 3 feet. It is also a fluid situation, but social distancing will happen as well as when students are walking through campus to get to their zones and going from their zones to PE, there will be social distancing. The heating, ventilation, and air conditioning on the campus is really, really amazing. On the West Campus, every single classroom in early childhood, elementary, and middle school have their own unit. So the air conditioning is not spread from one classroom. Whatever air is breathed in that classroom is not spread to any other classroom on campus. The cafeteria, the auditorium have their own, as well as Bethel. In the high school building, each floor has 2 separate zones of units. The first floor has the offices and the cafeteria. Floors 2, 3, and 4 are split between the east and west side of campus. And the 5th floor also has its own air conditioning zone. The recess PE, as we spoke about in specialties, PE will take place outside, but the specialties will be integrated into the classroom. The athletics and after-school activities, early care and aftercare, as well as field trips, will all be determined based upon the guidelines, the athletics of the Florida High School Association. As of now, we haven't made a decision about after school and early care, and field trips for the first few months of the school will not be happening. But as the situation progresses over time, we'll have a better understanding of can we or can we not have our field trips. Lunch service will be happening in the school. Students may purchase a kosher hot lunch from our school, but it will not be served in the cafeteria. These lunches will be made in our kitchen and will be directly delivered to each classroom. So students will not be having lunch together in the cafeteria. They plan to be having lunch inside the classroom. We do hope, and this is a scheduling that we're working on, that certain grades throughout the week will have the opportunity to go outside and have lunch on the field so they can have a little more of a space. This is all to be determined. As of now, we do not have an answer with the bus service and carpool. This is an ongoing situation, and we have not begun the registration for it, and we are waiting for more guidelines of whether or not we can have a bus coming to our campus. With regards to tuition, this was a question that was asked a few times, both in the submitted questions as well as the questions that people have called. So I figure I'll first just show this slide to you. This is a tuition outlook. This is an income and expenses in our school. Like most private schools, 85% of our budget comes from tuition plus a state-based scholarship. The rest of the income comes from grants, contribution, resource aftercare, summer programs at 4%, 3.5%, and 5.5%. But the majority of our income comes specifically from tuition, as well as 78% of our expenses go to payroll and benefits. Another 10% are educational programs and expenses. 9.5% are building and operations. 1.5% is fundraising, marketing, admissions, and recruitment. And then there's other expenses that come up throughout the year. We figured out that roughly 1% of our expenses are saved when we go virtually, which means since March when we went online, in terms of our expenses, this goes into some materials and mostly security are the expenses that we save. We still need to maintain the air conditioning throughout the school, or else it would not be pleasant for everyone comes back and all the damage that will happen. And therefore, how do we deal with tuition? There will be an answer for this in the coming weeks, as it is too early to tell. And specifically for early childhood, we also plan that in the coming weeks, there will be division-specific town halls, so that each early childhood question, an elementary school question, a middle school question, a high school question can be addressed. So we've also had in the last few months a huge increase in financial aid inquiries through our school. 15 to 20% of an increase in financial aid in the school. And what we've done is in the development committee, we've really focused, and thank you to Director of Development Susie Stern, who has spearheaded us applying to grants. We applied to federal grants, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the federal ESSER funding, the Florida Public Assistance grants, the State Florida Security Grant, specific related to COVID funding. We also applied to 3 different financial aid grants through the JCRIF, which is the Jewish Community Relief Impact Fund, which was a fund that was created by 7 foundations, as well as a massive educational grant. We also launched, and this is where our warrior ties, all the funding goes for, a COVID-19 relief fund, which helps the families who really suffered a financial burden on this situation and could not pay their tuition, and also having trouble in the future for tuition. If you find yourself in a situation, we first ask you, there is an increase in state funding on scholarship. And we ask you that you look into this. If many of you have called and expressed that you were very extremely financially impacted and you were debating whether or not to return to the school. So first look into that. There is a huge likelihood that you will qualify for financial aid through Step Up. And it is our founding principle of the school that we want Jewish students in our school, and we will do what we can to help that situation. So before August 1st, that is our deadline that we're working towards. We hope we'll be able to do it. That if we're able to have savings to present, if we go 100% virtual, which means there is no physical school on campus, we do hope to be able to pass some of those savings back to the families who have trusted us in the education in our school. With that, I'm going to turn this presentation over to Rabbi Avi Basowich, our Dean of Education, who has worked extremely diligently with each of the divisions, focusing on educational improvements to our school. And after Rabbi Basowich speaks, we will be able to open up this to a few questions if you may have some. So Rabbi Basowich, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Guttenberg. Thank you to all of you for coming tonight. There's actually a huge turnout tonight. We're really thrilled about that. And it's a reflection of your investment in our school. First and foremost, I hope that you're all well. I hope that your family members are well. I hope that your children are well. I hope that all of your loved ones are well. We know these are complex times. We know this is not the summer that many of us were imagining or looking forward to. And I hope that everybody here is well. Speaking of that, the social emotional well-being and the ability for each and every one of us, the adults on campus, our school community, and all of our children, the well-being is a priority for us. And over the past few months, our school psychologists have taken a very active role, proactively, in both creating a collection of resources, which they've shared with you and we've shared with you, and they're instrumental in our plans for the coming year, looking at the entire well-being of our entire staff and everyone in our school community and all of your children that you entrusted with us. I can tell you, next slide, please, Rabbi Guttenberg. I can tell you that first and foremost, we are confident about our plans to maintain academic excellence across our school and the 5 pillars we discussed at the end of year town hall board meeting. And in the coming weeks, as we get to that point, we'll talk about some of the new educational initiatives that are coming that align with that. But for this evening, we wanted to speak about one thing that is clear for us is that we anticipate opening school fully. And what comes along with that is what was described at the beginning tonight as option A and option B, which is all of the students who return to campus and what we imagine would be a small selection of students who choose to access our program from at home. And we also anticipate the likelihood that at some point we are fully virtual once again. And there are a lot of questions that many of you shared with us if we were to go virtual again, what that would look like. But first and foremost, all of those situations involve some hybrid or some model of integrating digital tools, how to navigate online learning, how to equip our faculty, our administration, and our whole team to bring out the best in your children. So over the past few weeks, while some faculty members have gotten a little bit of time to recharge their batteries for their own well-being, and others have jumped into preparation for the coming school year, we really started with our leadership team, which includes all of our principals, our AEP program coordinator, as well as a lead team of teachers across the divisions of our school, all of whom are experts in online learning through a series of workshops over the summer to learn from global experts in how we can improve online learning, blended learning, and how we can begin by expanding our bandwidth in-house from the adults who work here full-time rather than having one or two people, but really having a cohort across all the different divisions. We're also going to be adding for this coming year the position of a blended learning coordinator. That's really to further strengthen all of the different instructional models that we're talking about. We know based on your feedback that there were parents who needed some hand-holding, there were students who needed some hand-holding, there were some programs that we used that were not clear enough to either you or your children. So the addition of a blended learning coordinator is something we're very enthusiastic about to help everybody on our team. As you may or may not know, our academic enhancement program will continue as a full program, as it did both when we went fully virtual and when we are back at school. We're still working through some of the details in terms of how that works with the zones, but rest assured, if you've come to rely on that program, that will be a full part of our program. Over the course of the summer, we have a specialized focus for all of our faculty in professional learning that specifically relates to the reality that we're in. Through a global network of more than 100,000 educators around the world grappling with this. Part of it is self-guided courses that some faculty members will take. Some of it is training in-house, kind of peer-to-peer coaching. Some of it is a library of expert webinars that we've collated for the faculty. But rest assured, when our team at different points in the summer are ready to focus and deep dive, that's already underway. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about improvements that we'll make in the event that we go fully virtual. But let's go back for a moment. When we open for all of our student body, we anticipate some students being at home. And even a scenario where we may have a classroom teacher that's homebound with a group of students in school. As we mentioned in our last meeting, our commitment is to equip every single classroom, grades 2 through 12, to have the capability that if any single student or a group of students are at home, they can remotely access and participate what's going on live in the classroom. And granted, for middle and high school, that participation may be more natural and may look different than upper elementary school. But we've already run demos with teachers in the classroom, a handful of adults in the classroom, and students, if you will, at home. And teachers will be able to share what's on their smartboard or their computer screen exclusively. Teachers will be able to share a view of the classroom, both from the front of the room and the back of the room. So to the extent that we can simulate, even if it's not a replication of, to the extent that we can simulate what it feels like to be in class, we will do that. Our team is working diligently to see the best way to do that for lower elementary school, primarily kindergarten and first grade. As many of us know developmentally, for pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, the notion of accessing, remotely what's going on in a classroom looks very different. And we're also exploring times where classroom teachers can exclusively enter that digital space without the rest of the class, just to focus on students who might be homebound. We are, over the course of the summer and aggressively at the beginning of the school year, going to be addressing what's now called the COVID slide. Every summer, for those of you who may not know, there's literature and talk in our field about the summer slide of learning and the gaps that happen over the summer. Now it's referred to as a COVID slide. Our leadership team is presently looking at school systems that already reopened in other parts of the world with our own internal assessments of how we can identify, particularly in the lower grades, gaps that exist and how we can begin to accelerate closing those gaps. As I mentioned before in the slide before, our entire methodology is geared towards supporting the overall well-being of every student, both those at school and those at home. And that includes things that we need to tend to more under these circumstances than we might have otherwise, especially the overall rhythm for each and every student and adult on campus, and that's their social well-being, their emotional well-being, their spiritual well-being, in addition to the kind of exclusive academic program. And to that effect, as we design our schedules, and I'm going to share a glimpse of them in a moment with you, both the ones that will function in school and in the event that we're fully virtual, we're trying to balance the safety needs, emotional safety, physical safety, educational needs, and of course, developmental needs as we look at all of these different schedules. We do plan when we are fully on campus to have a full program for our early childhood. I know that there were some questions about that. As you may imagine, the specific schedules for a full return on campus are being worked on diligently by every principal and teacher representatives from different divisions. And as that fluidly changes with our knowledge about physical safety on campus, the different zones that Rabbi Guttenberg described, fortunately, we're looking to welcome many new families and many new students. And as we go through the next few weeks, our in-school schedule, taking into account all of those different pieces, will be made available to you. And as Rabbi Guttenberg said, we will also have dedicated town hall type meetings for each division for you and your children to get specific information towards your division. What I do want to share with you tonight is really our first sketch and draft and framework for what a fully virtual program would look like. As you know, as of March 16th, when we went fully virtual, although we had a lot of elements in place, it was not a fully virtual school. Some people in the industry call it an emergency remote learning plan. It was not something that was able to take everything into consideration. We did not, prep for it in the right kinds of ways. But now we've had a couple of months, both of experimenting with the program, getting feedback from many of you, getting feedback from our teachers. And I want to give you a glimpse, beginning with the high school, of what might look different than what we had the past few months. Also to let you know, for the high school, with Dr. Jones's arrival, over the course of the coming year, there will be a deep dive into our entire high school program, our entire high school schedule. We do want for the high school, when kids return in the fall, August 24th, we want there to be a strong degree of familiarity for our high school students. So while there will be some design changes, we would not expect at this point profound change to the at-school schedule. If we do go fully virtual, part of what we had, for those of you who may not know, the past few months, the high school essentially ran 4 academic subjects every day in addition to office hours, and classes met, regularly every other day. So your classes met, 2.5 times, per week, approximately. What we're looking at for the coming year is really increasing instructional blocks and a framework for every high school student and for the teachers. So we're looking at more structured time where teachers meet with each class. It does not mean that that's a full lecture mode for you or your children, but it does mean it's a much more organized way that teachers can meet with students. All of the courses at this point, we have a plan for them all to meet 4 days a week. And if you look at this tentative schedule, if you have a chance to look at it more carefully, 7 out of the 9 academic courses meet each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in rotation. And on Friday, every single course meets in a shorter amount of time. So every single course will meet 4 times a week. And depending on the course as we enter the school year, there will be some of those meetings which will be more lecture driven. Some of them will be more guided work. Some of them will be small group instruction. But it's a more robust kind of schedule than we had the past few months, and an increased instructional time. If you could go on to the middle school, please. In the middle school as well, a lot of the feedback that we got and what we know developmentally is for our dual curricular program to expand the day further with more instructional time for our students than what we did this past spring, and to build into our program the other components which are non-academic, which we know that our students need. So if you look at the sample schedule here as well, we're looking at a rotation over the course of the week. with every course in middle school meeting approximately 4 times a week rather than the 2.5 times we had this spring. Built into that, we have a daily tefillah. It's a day that more closely simulates what school is like at school. And there as well in the middle school, we understand that 40 minutes usually is the maximum block of attention for students who are logged into Zoom, although do not anticipate that all of these blocks would be purely traditional frontal lectures. Here as well, there are a lot of students who have guided work, independent work time with a structured ability both during class time and during office hours to meet with their teachers. If we can move to the elementary school, part of what we're looking at for the coming fall or spring for that matter at any point, if we have to go fully virtual as well, a few key elements we're looking at improving in the elementary school, and this is also a work in progress, but I could tell you some of the design elements include a clearer schedule across grades 2 through 5, particularly for students, our academic enhancement program providers, for parents, for siblings who are in multiple grades, just a more streamlined schedule across grades. We're looking at shorter and more focused blocks that meet with half the number of students at the maximum. So we know this past spring we had, for example, the entire 4th grade on a Zoom at one time. And we're looking at a maximum of having 2 different sections of students and having opportunities both during the morning and the afternoon that students do some of the heavy cognitive work, both in Limudei Kodesh and in Limudei Chol, which usually we're not able to accomplish at school. So we will be looking at kind of shorter, more focused blocks. There as well, we're not looking at a full day of 20 students listening to a teacher every minute. We will have times for smaller group work and breakout rooms with whatever platform we use. And we're also revisiting some of the platforms and digital tools that we used with the addition of a blended learning coordinator and also tutorials for students and for you and anyone else who works with your children so that there's a better rhythm for everyone involved. So I greatly thank all of you who filled out the surveys and shared feedback with any member of our team. We've taken it strongly into consideration. As you can imagine, there are a number of moving parts here and the situation is fluid. And we continue to hear from parents, sit with our teachers, sit with our principals, and we are really looking forward to welcoming back all of your children in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Bosovich. I really appreciate all of that. I want to give a special welcome to many of our new families who have joined us this evening. Welcome to the Hebrew Academy family. We look forward to greeting you on our physical campus. Along with the new families within the next few days, each of you will be receiving an email from our school regarding your enrollment status. If you have already registered and if you have not registered, we need to get a direct and an accurate as possible number of how many students are going to be on campus so that we can properly social distance inside every single classroom. So you will be receiving an email from our office along with a very, very short survey that I will request that you answer. I want to give a thank you to our business office, headed by Rachel Weinberger, Daniela Folk, and Mrs. Jackson and Miriam for all of their help in making sure that our school runs very, very smoothly, as well as Amy Espinoz from the admissions. With that, I'm going to close by thanking our board of directors who are constantly meeting with us, advising us and guiding us on the best possible way we can bring our school to the highest level. And so thank you very much. Many of you did submit questions, and I hope we addressed the questions that were submitted. I believe we did the best we could. If you feel like we didn't adequately address it, please feel free to send us an email to address it, as well as I will open up if anyone has a question now. You can feel free to raise your hand and I can call on you to ask them. For those who would like to leave now, you're more than welcome to. It was a pleasure seeing you, and we look very much to greeting all of your children back on campus on August 24th. Okay, so we have 3 participants. Okay, Ariella. Ariella, iPhone.
Yes, thank you. I feel so bad, but I just jumped into it and I tried to realize what happened with the high school. Would you give me one sentence of what the idea is? Because I didn't get the meeting invitation until now.
Okay, so we actually recorded this meeting and it's going to be sent out. It's going to be sent out tomorrow with all the slides, which your answers will be addressed then. But thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Moshe. I don't know who Moshe is. I can't hear you, Moshe. You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Go.
Hello?
Yep.
Yes. Hi. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Good. Quick question. Would we have the possibility to have our child for the first month, for instance, or first few weeks, not attend school, just attend virtually, and then eventually come back to the classroom? Is that a possibility?
Yes, that was option B on the plan, that if you don't feel comfortable with your child coming to school, you can attend school virtually for the first month, or as long as this COVID situation is going on.
Okay, so it's not an option B completely, or there's an option to do it a few weeks and then get
Correct.
back to.
We are not requiring families. We went back and forth and we actually consulted with many different schools, because some schools have said decide now for the entire semester or the entire year or half a year. We didn't feel like that was the right approach for our school because it's a fluid situation. So
yeah.
I mean, we would, I know that some of the high school kids are going to want to go home on the days that they have tests. And so that we're going to be, Dr. Jones and Dr. Lieber are going to monitor that very, very carefully. But we do want families to feel comfortable as possible.
Okay, perfect. And another question is, when will the decisions in regards to tuition assistance be made or finalized?
I actually do not know the answer to that question fully. So if you want to please send me a personal email, sguttenberg@rasg. I'll be more than happy to answer that back to you.
Let me grab a pen here. Sorry. Hey, what is the email?
You know what? It's just my SGUTTENBERG, my last name, @rasg.org. I'm going to go to the next. We have a few different questions here.
Okay.
Dr. Berkowitz.
Nice to see you.
Hey.
Mazal tov. I have a question in regard to taking measures, safety measures. Is temperature something that is going to be taken on students assisting to school? Is anybody going to make rounds maybe by the classrooms, or the teachers instructed to basically do somewhat of an inspection of the kids? I mean, an honor system is great, but I have been there, and I think that the honor system, unfortunately, cannot be trusted.
Okay, so let me answer your question. So at the entrance to school, I believe I mentioned this, and if I didn't, I apologize. It's on the slides. Every single person who enters our campus will have their temperature checked daily. That includes staff and students. Anyone who walks onto campus will have the temperature checks. One of our committees that we created is a training committee that is going to train all of our staff members to be on the lookout for any symptoms that could possibly arise. Okay. So based upon our medical guidance, and I know that you're a doctor, so I'll probably call you also, but the goal is to train our staff before school starts on how to look out for symptoms, and if there is the moment they recognize a symptom, that child will be exited from their zone and sent to Nurse Lynn.
Is it beautifully and satisfactorily answered? Thank you, Rabka.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Alana's phone. I don't know who Alana is, but
hi, it's Alana Strickon. Do you have I guess I missed kind of what was happening for the kindergarten and first graders, or I didn't see a slide for that, which I think Rabbi Boschwitz mentioned that maybe there were some still decisions being made on how you were going to potentially do virtual for kindergarten and first grade. But maybe if you have any kind of thoughts, especially if we were considering doing kind of like what one of the prior gentlemen mentioned, was kind of just having virtual for the first month, seeing how it goes, and then planning on integrating our kids maybe like in October. So for September, kind of what would be the virtual option for kids in kindergarten and first grade?
Right, Baswa, you want to take that first, or?
How are you? Good evening. What I would say is, it's a work in progress. And my thinking is, whatever exactly it is for kindergarten and first grade, we anticipate it being a strong program, though having your child not in the classroom in kindergarten and first grade is a balanced decision for you. My hope would be, and our hope would be, to welcome your child back when you're ready, for you to fully enroll your child and have, them part of our program. And as things emerge, I would share it with you. We're certainly looking at pockets of time where, a child is at home, maybe able to participate live in certain things that happen in the classroom, whether it's a mini lesson, whether it's morning circle, whether it's a story time, whether it's benching. At the same time, the notion of, those blocks of time, as it looks like, once you hit the upper grades in elementary school, we know that that's not optimal, for a 5 or 6 year old. So it is still in progress. But I understand that if you have an entering kindergarten or first grader, this is heavily on your mind. And I can assure you that as we work through more of the details, including our kindergarten and first grade teams and our leadership team, we'll share that out with you, because I know that's a targeted area. So I don't know if that's...
Right, last question. Do you think, just maybe there's like a little podcast we're doing here, do you think that we can have a separate town hall for kindergarten and first grade, and then second, third, and fifth grade, so
Yes.
which would be more specific?
I know that Mrs. Hamburg was also on the call. I know that there are questions, and for any parent thinking about, how does this work or not work for a 5 or 6 year old? They're not navigating a platform like Google Classroom. They're not monitoring necessarily their own schedule. Some parents have availability during the day to work with a child in kindergarten or first grade, but we optimally, our aim is to have a program that does not require a parent to teach their own child or sit with their child throughout the day. So yes, I would love for us to be able to have that focused on kindergarten and first grade with the team of teachers and Mrs. Hamburg there as well.
Great.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So it sounds like then there will be virtual is available, that option B for kindergarten and first. You just haven't worked out all the details yet. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Miss Ennis,
Yes.
you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you raised your hand. I was happy. I was looking forward to hearing from you. Okay. Miss Audrey Maman.
Hi. I have actually 2 questions. So my first question is, I think it's been asked, but I just want to make sure, is there a way to do a hybrid during the week? If I want to send my kids 3 days and 2 days, keep them home, can I do that? Or does it have to be by blocks of weeks, or how does that work?
Okay, great question. Let me answer the first one, then we get to the second one.
Okay.
Ideally, we are not creating a hybrid model. We do want families to choose. Back to the original Devar Torah, I think consistency is key. So we would rather you choose to be online or to be virtual. To go back and forth is definitely not ideal. I feel for the students in the class, as well as for the teachers.
Okay, so that leads me to my second question. Why can't we have the same schedule that is on for the virtual platform? Why can't we do it in school? It seems to be such a better schedule, in terms of hours, the breaks, the times that they get their classes, everything else. Why can't that be applied to in-person school?
So great question. We actually had a few different meetings where we sat down and we said, what did we learn from virtual learning that we can now bring back into the in-person regular scheduled school day that students we feel can learn better. So if we didn't actually discuss the in-person schedule of the school. We only spoke about the virtual one. The in-person one is changing as well, based upon what we learned from online learning. We also learned what students can do online, what they can't do online. We also feel like there's more specialties that we could do differently through the classroom. But the physical in-person school day will be changing based upon the feedback that we got. I just know that elementary, middle school, and high school have all met and created brand new looking schedules for the in-person meeting. And during those specific town halls, we will explain each one of those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And last one, we have Natalie.
We see you, Gabby, as well.
Oh, you have your hand like that? Okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I don't know, my Zoom is not, I'm not so Zoom capable, but you brushed over it pretty quickly, but the wearing of the masks all day is a very concerning. I mean, I can barely handle wearing it just to go grocery shopping. I cannot imagine wearing a mask the entire day, especially for younger kids, you know, first, second, third grade. I mean, any age really, to wear a mask the entire day in school, I just don't see how you're going to enforce that and how the kids are going to handle that. That's extremely challenging.
Okay. I would say, you know, as a joke, we've spoken about that. It's hard enough to get kids to wear their kippas all day long, let alone to put a mask on their face. I completely hear the statement that you're making about masks. I do know that we have been in touch with the medical team who are working with many of the summer camps right now, where kids are wearing masks full day. Some of the kids have gotten used to them, but like I said, one of the pieces that we've come to learn is that masks are the most important thing that we can implement to mitigate the spread of this virus. There will be times throughout the day in which students can take off their masks, and we are going to have designated times for that. There are different types of masks. There are some that are more comfortable than others, but that is something that right now we are not going to change. That is protecting the rest of the students as well as the teachers in the classroom.
But the day camps right now that are operating, like the JCC in Miami Beach and Machane Miami and North Miami Beach, the kids are not wearing masks in camp. They only wear it when they're going to and from one activity to the other in the common spaces. They're not wearing them. I just can't see how you can ask kids to do that.
In different situations they are, and in different ones they aren't. As of now, you know, safety is the most important for us. And while I do recognize that the masks are not comfortable and may not be ideal, it's hard to breathe. We do hope that we're not in this situation for such a long period. But you know, we are making the decision to require it if things do change, and if the medical committee gives us guidance that we can change it. We definitely will. But as if you would ask me if you would say, one of the board members said, what would happen if school was starting tomorrow? And I would say if school was starting tomorrow, we would still require everyone to wear a mask, because that is protecting as many people on campus as possible.
Okay, and then in relation to the previous question about changing the day schedule based on the feedback from what happened when we went virtual, does that mean a different start time to school?
No, as of now, it is going to be the same start time throughout campus, but the class schedules will change based upon the length of each class, as well as creating different times throughout the day. Like, for example, we found that the office hours for the middle school and high school teachers were very successful. Students can pop in. So we are looking to change that, but that will be addressed in the specific town halls for each division.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your question. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Wagner.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Welcome as a new family.
Thank you. We're so excited. I was just wondering, I know you said you're consulting with experts at summer camps and other Jewish day schools and the agencies. I was wondering if you guys have already set aside protocol, God forbid, students test positive or their family members test positive, what exactly the protocol is going to be? Are you going to then ask the entire class? Like, how is that going to work?
Okay,
Quarantine?
great question. So the first thing we're going to do is determine which zone the child is in, and then which cohort within that zone the child is in. We're then going to look at to see via video surveillance, because we have the whole school videoed as to who that child came in contact with. The medical committee has not, I don't believe, Nurse Len, if you could correct me if I'm wrong here, please. We do not have a full understanding of, are we going to require a 14-day quarantine for an entire class? If a parent of a child in the class is different than if a child in the class is. So I don't have a 100% answer for you that I can give. But it is something that the medical committee did discuss. Nurse Lynn, do you want to comment on that?
Hi, so what we said was if a sibling or a parent of a child is diagnosed with COVID, then that child would be quarantined for 14 days. If a child in the classroom would be diagnosed, then the class would be quarantined for 14 days.
So
Right,
the entire class would have to stay home for 14 days.
Right, but I don't know if it was 14 days or if it was, I don't know exactly the answer to that.
Yeah, I think we said 14, but it changes all the time, so.
Right. It is definitely something that we will go back to our medical committee to have a final answer. And as the answers become more clear to us, we will update a site within our website where this brochure is, which will have the answer to that question.
Okay, great. And I have one more thing I just wanted to say. The two other Jewish schools that I am affiliated with, our family's affiliated with, they are only making masks mandatory in common areas. So they are allowing them to take off the mask in the classrooms. Maybe as time progresses and how the situation changes, you guys might think about doing that, because I do think that the masks for an entire class all day long is going to be very, very excessive.
Right. I know that some of them are doing that, but I believe the teachers are still going to be protected.
Right. The teachers.
And keeping their distance. The advice that we got, and this everything as we know can change before August 24th, is that when both students and teachers are wearing masks, it is the maximum protection as possible. But I appreciate it, and right about this, we have a call tomorrow morning with all the other heads of school, and we will definitely bring it up with them as well. So thank you. Gabby, hold on. Go.
So first I want to thank all the administrators and also all the teachers who really stepped up. I see Mrs. Ben-Simon is here, so who really stepped up when, during this crisis schooling, like Rabbi Boswich said, is what we experienced over the last few months. And now that virtual schooling is a reality and something that, will most likely happen at some point next year. And virtual schooling is different from physical schooling. And there are many opportunities to capitalize on in virtual schooling as well. And my question is kind of a reverse of Audrey's question. I don't think that in virtual schooling, we want to simulate what it's like to be in school physically. And I have a few concerns. First, virtual students can't be expected to sit in front of a screen for the same amount of time that kids in school in a classroom are expected to be sitting in a classroom. And it's just a different type of teaching, the content, the style, it just is. And another concern I had is how are teachers going to be able to interact simultaneously with the children on the computer screen who are there virtually and the children in the classroom without one compromising the other? And how are you addressing that is my question.
Great question. Right, Boswich, you want to go first on that one?
Sure, I'll go first. First of all, it sounds like you're talking about actually two different scenarios. One in which school is physically open and there's a small population of students at home. And then the second one is if school were fully closed and everything is virtual again. There's no doubt between those two scenarios, if everyone is at home, right, that puts us back in virtual school, which provides for all kinds of opportunities because there's no second population of students physically at school. And a teacher is exclusively, or any other professional at our school is exclusively available to only students who are at home. When I spoke about simulating, that was not a claim about method and style of pedagogy. That was actually about organization of a day and framework to ensure that we go through an instructional model. And speaking to what Audrey said before, I can tell you, for example, in middle and high school, we had an instructional model that went from 940 essentially to 215. And for a dual curricular school, we're not only not looking to bring that model back to our dual curricular school, we're not looking to replicate that again for kids at home, even though most students would prefer a 940 to 215 day. There's no doubt that you're right, Gabby, that, if you're talking about students who are at home, it's not a model of students looking at a screen and listening for every one of those blocks as they would have to at school. That's where like instructional style comes in. And that's why there may be many times where kids have in front of them a device where they could conceivably digitally raise their hand to access a teacher, but there are blocks of time they're doing the kind of work that they do at school without doing it on a screen. And then I would add for students who are at home, while school is in session, that's where I say, it's a simulation and we will aim to do the best possible. There aren't currently any schools in the world that are offering a model simultaneously for two populations of students, right? And if we had the bandwidth to create a second school, and there is one school in this country that's trying to fund a second school that's a standalone school with a completely different faculty for kids who commit now to the entire year at home, right? There is a school that's aiming to do that, whether or not they're able to. So in that case as well, our work is not done on July 7th, and frankly, our work won't be done August 24th to get to a point in elementary school where we have a second teacher or assistants and we have coordination, to get to a point that for a student at home, there are a variety of things that they're able to access over the course of the day, right? It's not merely, I have a view only kind of, if I'm at school right now and I have a security system at my house that I can view what's on the camera, we understand that what's developmentally appropriate at different ages is not simply to have eyes into a classroom, right? So we're working towards something that expands and expands beyond that. I hope that answers it. If you want to build on it, Rabbi Guttenberg, and I'd love to speak to you separately, Gabby, to hear more about the ideas that you're thinking about.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really wanted to thank everyone who was brave enough to ask their questions. Thank everyone who participated in tonight's town hall. Thank you, Rabbi Boswich, for all of your help in this. With that, we're going to close the evening. Please still feel free to drop us any questions that you have. The town hall question link is still open if you want to ask your questions. If you put your name there, we can get back to you with a particular, with an answer to your particular question. So with that, thank you very much. I hope everyone is healthy and happy and have a wonderful evening.